Thank you for joining me for this discussion of culture-centered design for field programs, designed to help Stove professionals increase their cultural knowledge by using tools and strategies from design anthropology. My name is Kim Forrest, and I'm the board chair of Stove Team International, a clean cook stove organization serving Central America. And I also just finished my master's in anthropological studies of Mexico. And what you're going to see here is the research that I used to finish that degree. I looked at the strategies that Stove projects are using in order to increase their reach and also their adoption. Some of these include peer-to-peer schemes, maybe tapping trusted community members, directly engaging in the community, or relying on early adopters to help with neighborhood or regional diffusion. And I asked, what do all of these depend on? They all depend on relationships of trust. So I wanted to ask, what forms trust in the context that we serve, which looks at trust not as a universal concept, but as a unique social phenomenon, in the same way anthropologists talk about trust. I used the design anthropology approach to exploring this question. Design anthropology is similar to the user-centered design processes that we use to create stoves and services, but it adds the observation and analysis tools of anthropology that I'll explain here, as well as focuses firmly on culture. This is very valuable because we can understand the values and beliefs that are driving the social systems that we rely on for our projects, or the individual motivations for behavior change that we depend on as people are switching from open fire cooking to cooking on stoves. Design anthropology is a process of understanding how culture unfolds in response to the design process. The project sites in Guatemala were located on the Pacific Slope in Retajaleu, which is a Ladino or non-indigenous area, and also Totonicapan in the Guatemalan highlands, which is an indigenous area and also is the stronghold of the Quiche Maya people, where they have a semi-autonomous government known as the 48 Cantones, which regulates the communities internally as well as protects them from outside forces. Okay, here's the most important part where I want to talk to you about the tools available to Stove projects to do cultural research and to improve their ability to gain insights as well as communicate these insights while they're doing design or communicating their decisions to outside stakeholders. First of all, I engaged in a semi-structured interview process with women in their homes over the course of cooking during the day, and I asked them all the same questions about the cultural theme that I was interested in, which was trust. I didn't ask them in terms of the Stove project, but in general, how they felt about trust and how trust was perceived within their communities. I then asked them to recount to me the stove receiving process, as well as the actors that were involved in that process that made them feel comfortable during moments of doubt or also really delighted them in moments of excellence. I then took these insights and I developed an ethnography of trust, so a description of this cultural theme from the participants' point of view. I also created participant journey maps, which demonstrated every point in their journey as well as what trusted actors were influential at these different moments. And then finally, I asked, how can we apply these insights and these tools to our existing programs and new programs in order to aid in design? Let's look at the ethnography of trust that I developed for Retajaleu very briefly. I found that trust was based on individuals and personal character traits as demonstrated through actions, and that reciprocity was very important to being a trusted person. This is important to our project because these informal social services, such as our Stove project, have led people here to develop networks to take advantage of these services. And these networks are led by brokers who exchange resources they don't own, such as access to our stoves or other resources available to the network, for social benefits, such as a continued status as a person of trust. In our project, these women are known as encargadas, and they help collect names and money and facilitate the process, not only for our project, but for multiple projects in their communities. You'll see here how I used a participant journey map to demonstrate how key the encargadas are to the recipients having trust in the process and at what moments that trust is most key. Specifically when they are connecting with the encargada and giving their name and money and then waiting on materials. These are the moments where people feel the most stress about the project and are reassured by this trusted actor within their network. You can also see that at the very end, people are relying on the encargada to provide follow-up support support, and she's providing this follow-up support in order to ensure people in her reciprocity network are satisfied with the product, as well as feel like it was worth their time, as well as trust her as a broker continually. So how could we use this information in doing design? Well, we can recognize that the encargadas are enjoying a unique social position and they're motivated by reciprocity. So we can know why they're doing the work that they're doing, as well as the limitations of that work being bounded by their social networks and their closest ties. Within the process, we can increase support to the encargadas, knowing how important they are to the recipient experience, and we can also recognize that it's not just any women, but these women that we need to capacitate. We can also recognize that the reputation of our supervisors, workers, and organizational brand is very important in terms of being professional and respected in the community, but it's also receiving a lot of support from the recommendation of the encargadas. We can contrast what was seen in Retahaleu with Totonicapán in order to see how important it is to study trust within the context that we serve. So in Totonicapán, trust is based in the collective. This is due to the fact that all adults serve in the indigenous cargo system, and therefore the authorities who are part of the system are seen to be leading by obeying the will of the people. The authorities restrict access to protect insiders from potentially dangerous outsiders, and so when the authorities approve an organization or an individual to come into the community, people believe that this is done in the best interest of all, and the authorities transfer their trust from them to these organizations or individuals. Therefore, trust in this context is based on being known or approved by the authorities. And also I found that the interpersonal trust that you might see between individuals is based on confidentiality and discretion and may be less accessible to our program. You can see from this participant journey map that most of the trust building is done up front when people are learning that the authorities approved the organization. In this context, individuals are largely freed from the burden and responsibility of evaluating the trustworthiness of organizations or individuals from outside on their own. Therefore, the most important trust building activities happen up front when trust is transferred in this way. Let's apply these insights to design. We know that people defer to the authorities for decisions about approval for outside organizations, as well as for selection of the individuals within their community that are most deserving of stoves. We also know that personal trust is largely inaccessible here to outsiders, and that people's networks are small and closed. So because people are relying so much on the authorities, we need to consider extensive authority training in recipient selection, as well as support following the installation of the stoves. I hope this example of culture-centered design in practice inspired you to look at cultural themes that are impacting your programs or that might impact proposed solutions and initiatives that you'd like to launch. I'd love to connect with anybody who's doing cultural research within the Clean Cookstove world. Please contact me at this email address or on LinkedIn, and we can chat more about what you're doing to study culture in your contexts. Here is a list of references cited in this presentation. You can also contact me for a copy of my full report. Thank you.